This took place in my college high school 3 years ago. I had 8 periods in a school day. We were having presentations and honestly I didn't know much about any of them. It was nearing the end of school, everyone was on their way to their last period, which for me was English, a class that I not only wasn't good at but I also disliked the teacher. And at that point, some of my colleagues were having their presentations while I took permission from the teacher telling him I wanted to use the restroom since I'd be standing for a long time. I got to the bathroom stall located close to my classroom and went inside, washing my face while staring at the mirror. I pulled out my phone and started playing a game. The bathroom was one of those older ones with those heavy wooden doors and flickering fluorescent lights that made this annoying buzzing sound every few seconds. Honestly, it was kind of gross in there, but it was better than sitting through another boring presentation about Shakespeare my classmates were rambling about. I was scrolling through my phone when I heard footsteps in the hallway outside, getting louder and more frantic sounding. Then the principal's voice came crackling through the intercom, but it sounded different this time, more urgent and shaky.
Attention all students and staff, this is not a drill. We are now in lockdown mode. Please secure all doors, turn off lights, and remain silent until further notice. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill.
I looked up from my phone and felt my stomach drop because lockdown drills never happened during last period, and they definitely never said it wasn't a drill twice. I quickly turned off the lights in the bathroom and locked the main door, but then I realized something horrible. I was trapped. The bathroom only had one way in and out, and now I was stuck in here with no idea what was happening outside. I texted my friend Mike, who was in the English class, asking what was going on, but my message wouldn't send. The Wi-Fi was down, and I had no cell service, which never happened in this part of the building. That's when I heard footsteps in the hallway again, but these were different, slow, deliberate, and stopping right outside the bathroom door. Whoever it was tried the handle, and when it didn't open, they started knocking, not like a normal knock, but this weird, rhythmic tapping that made my skin crawl. I held my breath and pressed myself against the far wall, hoping they would just move on, but then a voice came through the door.
Hey, is someone in there? I know you're in there. I can see the light under the door.
The voice was raspy and definitely not a teacher or student. It sounded like an older man, maybe in his 40s or 50s. I didn't respond, hoping he would think the bathroom was empty. But then he said something that made my blood freeze.
I saw you come in here during the presentation. You were wearing the blue hoodie, weren't you?
My heart was pounding so hard, I thought he might hear it through the door. How did he know what I was wearing? Had he been watching me the whole time? I slowly pulled out my phone and tried calling 911, but still no signal. I was completely cut off from the outside world, trapped in this bathroom with some stranger who had apparently been stalking me. The tapping stopped, and for a moment, I thought maybe he had left. But then I heard the sound of keys jingling outside the door. My blood went cold, because how would he have keys to the school, unless he worked here or unless he had taken them from someone else? The door handle started turning, and I realized the lock wasn't going to keep him out much longer. I looked around desperately for somewhere to hide. The bathroom had 3 stalls and a small supply closet in the corner. I ran to the supply closet and squeezed inside, just as the main door opened and light from the hallway spilled in. I could see through the crack in the closet door as a tall figure entered the bathroom. He was wearing dark clothes and had something in his hand that looked metallic. He walked slowly through the bathroom, checking each stall one by one, opening the doors with loud creaking sounds that echoed off the tile walls. When he got to the last stall, he paused, and I could hear him breathing heavily, like he was getting frustrated or excited. I couldn't tell which was worse. He started talking to himself in that same raspy voice.
Where are you hiding, you little pest? I know you're still in here.
I was trying so hard not to make any noise that I was getting dizzy from holding my breath. But then my phone vibrated with a text message. The sound was muffled by my hoodie, but in the dead silence of that bathroom, it might as well have been a fire alarm. The man's head snapped toward the supply closet, and he started walking in my direction with those slow, deliberate steps. I could see his shadow under the closet door getting closer and closer. When suddenly, the fire alarm started blaring throughout the entire school. The loud, piercing sound filled the bathroom, and the man covered his ears and ran toward the exit. I waited until I couldn't hear his footsteps anymore before pushing open the closet door. I ran out of the bathroom and down the hallway toward the nearest exit, where I could see flashing red and blue lights outside. When I got to the parking lot, there were police cars everywhere, and students were being evacuated in groups. A police officer grabbed me and asked if I was okay and where I had been during the lockdown. I told him everything about the man in the bathroom and how he seemed to know what I was wearing. The officer's face got very serious, and he called over a detective who took me aside for questioning. Apparently, there had been reports of a suspicious man on campus earlier that day who had been asking students personal questions and following them around. The detective told me that someone had pulled the fire alarm from inside the building, which forced the lockdown to end early. They never found the man, but they did discover that a master key had been stolen from the custodial office earlier that week, which explained how he got into the bathroom. The security footage from that day mysteriously got corrupted, so they had no visual evidence of who it was. It's happened 3 years ago on October 2nd. Third period history class. History class wasn't that easy and don't really have passion about history class though. I was doodling in my notebook margins, half listening to another lecture about World War II battles, when my friend slid me a crumpled note about weekend plans. Just another boring school day that felt like it would never end. Then the intercom crackled to life, but instead of the usual clear announcement, all we could hear was static and muffled buzzing. At first, I thought it was just another technical glitch. Our school's PA system was ancient and always breaking down. But then we caught fragments of the principal's voice through the static, and something was very wrong. His words were choppy and panicked. I initially thought it was some kind of mistake, maybe a drill gone wrong or the intercom malfunctioning during a test announcement. But then the power suddenly cut out completely. The classroom plunged into an eerie half-darkness, with only the gray daylight filtering through the windows. That's when the teacher's face went completely white, and she rushed to lock the door with shaking hands. We all huddled in the back corner of the classroom, and for the first few minutes it was actually kind of quiet. Then we heard footsteps in the hallway outside, slow and deliberate, like someone was walking around looking for something. That's when the screaming started. Not normal shouting, but this raw, desperate screaming that made everyone in our class go dead silent. The voice was coming from somewhere near the main office, echoing through the hallways. The screaming got closer, and now we could hear footsteps running back and forth in the hallway right outside our door. Then came the banging. Loud, violent sounds like someone was throwing themselves against the lockers over and over again. Someone in the back of our class started crying, and the teacher put her finger to her lips, telling us to stay quiet. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped right outside our classroom door. We could hear heavy breathing just inches away from us. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. The fear was paralyzing. I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't even breathe properly. Then whoever it was started pounding on our door so hard that the whole wall was shaking. He was screaming,
"Let me in, let me in, let me in."
Over and over again in this voice that didn't even sound human anymore. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold on to my backpack. Pure terror was coursing through my veins, the kind of fear that makes your whole body go numb and your mind go blank. I felt like I was going to throw up from the adrenaline. About 20 minutes later, we heard sirens outside and police officers talking in the hallways. The principal came back on the intercom and told us we could come out, but to exit the building immediately. As we were walking to the parking lot, I overheard one of the security guards talking to a police officer. He said he found a guy hiding in the equipment shed behind the school. Apparently, this guy had been living in there for who knows how long, and had some kind of mental breakdown that morning. He had broken into the school through a back door and was just wandering around, completely confused and terrified. The security guard mentioned that when he found him, he was just holding a bunch of random school supplies he had picked up while walking around. No weapons, nothing dangerous, just someone who was completely lost in his own mind and probably didn't even know where he was or what he was doing. We got dismissed early that day, and for weeks everyone was talking about it. I never found out what happened to him after that day, but I really hope he got the help he needed. The whole experience made me realize how fragile mental health can be, and how quickly someone's world can completely fall apart. So there I was, stuck in mathematics class on a Wednesday afternoon, watching my friend frantically scribbling down answers he should have done the night before. Mathematics was easily the most difficult and boring class of the day, and sitting through another hour of equations and formulas felt like torture. The classroom felt like a sauna, and I'd been holding it for the past hour because I hate using those gross school bathrooms. But when nature calls, you really don't have a choice. I raised my hand and asked to use the restroom. The teacher barely looked up from grading papers and just waved me off with that tired make-it-quick gesture. I grabbed the hall pass and headed out, already dreading what I'd find in there. As I walked down the empty hallway, I put my headphones in and cranked up my music, anything to make this boring day go faster. The bathroom was surprisingly empty for once, which was actually a relief. I picked the cleanest stall I could find and settled in, scrolling through my phone with my music still playing. Those cheap school walls were paper thin, so I could hear muffled sounds from the hallway, but I wasn't really paying attention. Just another typical Wednesday at school. I must have been in there for about 10 minutes, completely zoned out with my headphones on, when I started getting this weird feeling like something was off. You know that feeling when you're home alone and you hear a noise that doesn't belong? It was like that, but I couldn't put my finger on what was wrong. When I finally finished up and walked back toward my classroom, the hallway felt different somehow. It was too quiet, even for a Wednesday afternoon. All the classroom doors were shut tight, which was weird because teachers usually kept them propped open. I pulled out my headphones and that's when I noticed the complete silence. I tried the handle to my mathematics classroom, but it was locked. Through the small window in the door, I could see my classmates all huddled on the floor in the corner, including that friend who'd been copying my homework just minutes before. The teacher was crouched down with them, and everyone looked terrified. That's when it hit me, we were in lockdown. My stomach dropped as I realized I'd been wandering around the halls completely oblivious while everyone else was hiding for their lives. I started knocking softly on the classroom door, trying to get his attention without making too much noise. He saw me and his face went completely pale. He was frantically gesturing for me to get away from the door, pointing down the hallway with this look of pure terror in his eyes. That's when I heard footsteps echoing from the direction I'd just come from, slow, deliberate footsteps getting closer. My heart started racing as I realized someone was walking down the hallway, and it definitely wasn't another student or teacher. I pressed myself against the lockers and held my breath, trying to figure out where to hide. The footsteps were getting louder, and I could hear them stopping at different classroom doors. Then it clicked, whoever this person was, they were checking every room systematically. And I had just come from the bathroom at the end of the hall. The same bathroom where I'd been sitting completely alone and vulnerable for the past 10 minutes. The same bathroom where someone could have been hiding the entire time. The footsteps stopped, and I heard the unmistakable sound of a bathroom door creaking open. The same bathroom I just left. My blood ran cold as I realized that while I was in there scrolling through my phone with headphones on, someone dangerous had probably been in there with me the whole time. Police started wailing outside, and within minutes the hallways were filled with officers. They found the guy hiding in a bathroom stall, the exact same bathroom where I'd been sitting just 20 minutes earlier. When they told me how long he'd been in there, I couldn't stop shaking. Turns out, he'd been in that bathroom for over an hour before I even got there. While I was struggling through difficult mathematics problems and watching my friend cheat, this guy was already hiding just a few stalls away from where I would eventually sit. The thought of how close I came to a completely different outcome still keeps me up at night. That day taught me to always pay attention to my surroundings, even during the most boring moments of school.